Hello and welcome. As per the title, in this video, what we're going to be covering is why wanting it isn't enough and what actually is enough in order to achieve your goals and reach whatever success looks like in your life. If you are a person that doesn't like education, that doesn't want to improve their ability to achieve their goals, I highly recommend you do not watch this. If you are the opposite and you're a person that wants to elevate their awareness in order to be as successful as possible, this is exactly what you need to listen to. Okay, so diving into it, what we're going to cover are the two categories, the want versus the necessity. Okay, we're then going to dive into the removal principle, okay, the internal escape hatch, all of this I will explain. The price most people will not pay, a couple of questions, maybe not just one. We'll do a review and then I'll leave you with actionable steps for you to implement to actually improve your life from today. Okay, now diving straight into it, want lives in the mind, necessity lives in the identity. That's the whole difference. Okay, want is in the mind, necessity is the identity. And that's why wanting it isn't enough. And I'll explain what actually is. So without further ado, let's jump into the two categories. Okay, there is something you have wanted for a long time, maybe months, maybe years, maybe decades. You have thought about it, you've talked about it, you've imagined yourself and your life and what it would look like once you've achieved it, okay? Or if you actually had it. And every single year, you watch yourself not get any closer to it, okay? You are not lazy, you are not stupid, you are not broken. You want it. You genuinely want it. And it does not matter, okay? Because wanting it has never been enough for anyone in human history. Not you, not me, not anyone. And this video is about why. And more importantly, what actually works instead, okay? This is actually the first video in a series I call The Enemy is Always Internal. Every video in this series teaches you one thing about the only enemy that matters, the enemy in here. Okay, today's lesson is the fundamental of what this series will about. If this lesson doesn't land and if you don't action on this lesson, none of what I post and none of what I continue to educate you on will matter, okay? The story we get told from when we were kids is simple, okay? If you want it badly enough, you will get it. If you don't have it, you don't want it badly enough. How many times have you heard that? Well, that premise is completely wrong. It's outdated. Okay, wanting and necessity are not the same emotion. They're not even in the same category. Wanting is a preference. It sits next to your other preferences and competes with them. You want the body. You also want the pizza. You want the business. You also want your weekends. Okay, every preference gets a vote. And because every preference gets a vote, the easiest option usually wins because the mind always wants the path of least resistance. It wants the path of most comfortability, okay? This is not a character flaw, it is human science. It's psychology, it's math, whatever you want to call it. Necessity, on the other hand, is different. Necessity has no competition. You do not motivate yourself to breathe. You do not need discipline to drink water when you're starving of thirst, okay? Your mind and body organize around necessities automatically. There's no willpower that's required to do these things. Throughout this series, I will give you different visuals so that you allow your mind to actually see it and not just hear the words because we are visual creatures, okay? So here's a great example of wanting versus necessity. Wanting is usually optional, it's exciting, it's comfortable. Necessity, on the other hand, is non-negotiable. It's identity shaping and usually it's urgent, okay? The people who get what they want are not wanting it any harder than you, okay? They have moved the one thing they want from the want column to the necessity column. And once it's in the necessity column, the work stops feeling like work. It just becomes what you do, okay? Willpower is the tax you pay when something is still optional. Okay, every productivity hack, every morning routine, every motivational system, they are all trying to lower that willpower tax, okay? But none of them eliminate it. What eliminates the willpower tax? Well, it's turning the thing that you want, it's turning it into a necessity, okay? Everything else is just optimizing that tax. This completely removes that tax, okay? So let's dive into the removal principle. So how do you move something from the want to the necessity? Well, not by wanting it more, not by finding your why, like a lot of people talk about this day and age, not by reading another book. I'll read the books and I'll give you the information and the actionable steps so that you can improve your life. The way that you move it from the want category to the necessity column, you move it by removing alternatives. So let's dive into that. Necessity is created by the absence of other options, not by adding options, not by adding desires, but by subtracting paths, okay? Most people keep their goal in the want column their entire lives because they keep their options open. And options always feel like safety. How many times have you said, oh, it's okay, I've got a plan B, C, D, E, F? How many times? It's because you always allow yourself to have options in case something fails, which then results in you never actually achieving plan A. Options are actually the enemy. Options are why you will never do the thing, okay? It's why you will never achieve the thing. Options, as long as there is another path, the brain knows it doesn't have to take that path. And when you give yourself options, the brain will choose the path of least resistance naturally, and usually your goals, your wants, are actually going to cause some resistance, which is why most people never achieve them. Let's dive into a couple of really basic examples with a visual as well. The person in shape did not want it more than you. They made not being in shape unacceptable to who they are. They removed it as an option, not a preference. Okay, so here's a visual example. You have your options open, okay, versus the alternatives being completely removed. There's only one direction that you get to go in, that you have to go in, and that's the direction of whatever it is that you're wanting to achieve. Path B, you have multiple options. You end up going down different rabbit holes and never achieving it. Simple science, okay? Another example. The person with the business did not want you, okay? They cut off the backup plan. They made the old life impossible to return to. They removed you, okay? They kept fewer doors or fewer hatches open. So, let me give you an example. In sales, I've watched this in real time. The top reps, okay, as a manager, as someone that's overseen multiple businesses, the top reps are not people that are more motivated, okay? They just weren't comfortable with not closing. The identity of someone who misses the target, they made that identity intolerable, okay? So they found a way every single time, not because they were more motivated, but because it was intolerable to them that they didn't get a close. Achievement is a subtraction problem disguised as an additional problem, okay? And this is what most people will never understand in their entire lives, okay? This is why nobody solves it. They're using the wrong operator. Stop adding desires, start subtracting alternatives, okay? The question should never be, how do I want this more? The real question is, what doors do I need to close to make this impossible to not achieve? What doors do I need to close to make it impossible to not achieve? You already know the answer to that. You already know what doors you're leaving open. That leads us to the internal escape hatch, or the internal door, if you will, okay? When most people here remove your alternatives, okay, they think about external options. So when I mentioned that word, you might have thought about jobs, maybe moving city, burning the bridges. And sure, those things matter, okay? But they are not where the real work is. Most people will eventually remove the external alternatives and then they will fail anyway because they don't change the only alternative that actually matters, the mind. They keep the internal escape hatch open, okay? The internal escape hatch, what is that? It's the internal door, okay? The quiet permission that you give yourself to be the kind of person who tries and doesn't make it. That's the door that you're leaving open consistently, okay? The sentence or the line goes like this: oh, if this doesn't work out, that's okay. I tried. How many times have you said that to yourself? How many times have I said that to myself? Multiple times. As long as you can live with that version of yourself that fails, you'll never succeed. Because it's not a necessity, okay? For me, and I'll share a story, I'll be honest with you, the thing I had to cut off was not external, okay? It wasn't necessarily moving cities or friends or family or anything like that. I had to cut off the idea of not achieving my full potential. I made wasted potential intolerable to who I am, okay? I removed the internal permission to be average. I closed the door, I closed the hatch completely of that person living in my life. It was a non-negotiable, it was non-acceptable. That was the only move that actually mattered. Not the visible changes, okay? Those were all downstream of the one invisible change. I made one version of myself impossible to live with, okay? The moment that version became impossible to live with, the other version became necessary. There was nowhere else to go. You need to make the version of yourself you're afraid of becoming intolerable, okay? Not unpleasant, not undesirable, but intolerable. Something you cannot share a body with. That's the difference between actually wanting it and actually achieving it, is the level of intolerance that you can accept, okay? Once that version is intolerable, the work is not an option anymore. You don't need motivation. You don't need discipline. You just need to keep being someone who cannot live with the alternative. Let's dive into this before I share a visual. The enemy is always internal. But you know what the great thing is? So is the solution, okay? The work you are not doing is not waiting for you on the outside. It's waiting for you in the inside. In the room with the escape hatch, the room with the door that's open. So here's a visual that I want to share, okay? The internal world is a pure reflection of your external world. If you've never heard that, this is probably one of the greatest lessons that you'll receive, okay? Our internal world, our beliefs and our self-identity, our self-image, okay, drives our behaviors and our decisions, okay? And what that leads to is our actions and circumstances in the external world. Okay, so that's the forward engineering. The reverse engineering is the external world is a pure reflection of our beliefs and our self-image and what we accept as tolerable versus intolerable or intolerable. Okay, so everything is a reflection of the internal state because it shapes your external world. Okay, because it shapes your actions, it shapes your circumstances, and your actions and circumstances are the external world. Cool. Moving forward, okay, so as of right now, what we've covered, brief mini recap, okay? We've spoken about the two categories of the want versus the necessity, okay? We've understood the removal principle, okay? You don't need to add anything to your life, you need to remove the options in order to achieve it, the one goal, okay? We've then spoken about how to remove that principle or how to remove these other options is purely internal. Okay, by changing your beliefs, by changing what's tolerable to you, okay? We now move into arguably one of the most important parts of this lesson, the price most people won't pay, okay? So here's another visual example that I have, okay? So usually most people won't pay this price because the mind always leads to the comfortable route, okay? So you can have a look here of the safety of wanting versus the cost of necessity. Most people will always majority of people will always lean to the safety of wanting. Why don't most people do this? Well, it's not because they don't know, it's because of what it costs, okay? Wanting is free. You cannot want something forever and never lose anything by wanting it. This is why most people stay wanting. It is risk-free. You get the dopamine of imagining the outcome without even betting on yourself. It's easy. How many times do you lay in bed thinking and imagining yourself wanting X goal or wanting it, but then you never do anything about it? You never bet on yourself. It's risk-free. You never find out who you really are, okay? Necessity has a price. It costs you the comfort of the alternative. It costs you comfortability, is what that means, okay? And we don't want to give up comfortability usually, okay? It costs you the sentence, if this doesn't work, I can always, because there is no option. Necessity is the only option, So it costs you that easy way out. It costs you that other option. It costs you that plan B, which is scary. And the reason that most people stay in the want column for their entire life is they are not willing to pay that price, okay? They would much rather keep wanting forever than risking needing and failure. Because needing and failing means they have to meet a version of themselves they have been avoiding their whole life. Isn't that powerful? The enemy is not your circumstances. The enemy is the part of you, the internal part of you, that has built a comfortable relationship with not getting it. You have built a comfortable relationship with not achieving X goal, and that's the true enemy, okay? If you take one thing from this video, the reason that you have not done the thing is not because you don't want it enough. It is because you are not yet willing to pay the price of needing it. And that's the difference between the most successful individuals that I work with and the most unsuccessful individuals that I know. It's because the most successful people, they make it intolerable. They make it a necessity. Versus the unsuccessful people, they're still in, oh, I want it. You must need it. You must put yourself in such a deep situation that is a non-negotiable that you achieve X goal, that you achieve it, whatever it is. Okay, so I want to leave you with a couple of questions. Okay, stop the video and actually ask yourself these questions. Most people won't. Most people will watch this video. Most people still probably aren't even watching. Okay, but if you have gotten this far, write down these questions and internally answer them, because this is what will change the trajectory of your success and your career in whatever realm or whatever career you are in. Okay, question 1. What version of yourself are you protecting by not doing it? What version of yourself are you protecting by not doing this? Who are you protecting? Ask yourself that, and then ask this follow-up question. What are you pretending not to know? What are you pretending not to know? You probably already know the answers to both of these, okay? The story you've been telling yourself about why it hasn't happened yet, you wrote that story. You're pretending not to know information when you have all the information that you need. You wrote the story, which allows you to have the power to rewrite it as well. And that's what I'm here to do, is allow you to rewrite your story. Stop protecting that version. Okay, stop protecting the version of yourself that you're lying to yourself about. Make it intolerable, not uncomfortable, not something you'd prefer to become, intolerable. Something you cannot share a body with for another year, another month, another week, another day. The day that you do this is the day that everything changes. Not because you finally want it enough, because you finally cannot afford to not have it. It becomes something you cannot do. And that's the difference between wanting and necessity. Okay, that's the difference between success and not being successful. Successful people, it's because it's something that they cannot live without. They have to be successful in whatever that looks like. They have to have a good physique. They have to have $1 million in the bank account. For you, it's a want. You can still live without it. And that's exactly why you have not fucking achieved it. Let's go into the review so that you can leave this lesson with some tactical steps, and then I'll give you some actions as well, okay? Wanting and necessity are not the same, not even in the same category. Willpower is the tax you pay when something is still optional. That's why burnout doesn't exist, because if it's a necessity, there's no such thing as burnout, because it's your one goal, it's the one task, you will achieve it, okay? Burnout happens when you're chasing mimetic desires because you internally don't have that thing that's pulling you towards the goal, okay? You move want into the necessity by removing alternatives, not by adding more desires. Start subtracting from your life, which rolls into the next review point of achievement is a subtraction problem, not an additional problem, okay? External removal is not enough. The internal escape hatch, the internal door is where the real work is, okay? Make the version of yourself that you are afraid of becoming intolerable, not undesirable, intolerable. intolerable. That's the one word I want you to take away from this, is you have to become, that version of yourself has to become intolerable to not achieve, okay? The price of necessity is the comfort of the alternative. Most people won't pay it, which is why most people will not achieve their goals. And I don't want you to be one of those individuals. If you have gotten this far, well done. You're actually on the path to be able to start to rewire your mind, rewire your brain in order to start to achieve the things that you want. I'll give you some actionable steps. Write the sentence, okay? Get a piece of paper and write down the internal hatch that you are keeping open. Write down the door that you are leaving open that's allowing you to not make it or the goal a necessity. Put it on paper, fucking name it. Another actionable step. Who is the person you have made peace with becoming if this doesn't work? Describe them, make them real, bring them to reality. Ask the question then, can you live without that version? If it's yes, I can live without that version, you're still in the wanting mood. If it's no, I cannot live without becoming that version of myself, you're ready to close the hatch, you're ready to actually fucking achieve the goals. Do one removal. This is the most powerful, actionable step that you can take. One external alternative you have been keeping open, remove it. Remove it this week. Actually, no, not next month, not this week. Remove it today. Remove it after you come to the conclusion of what that is. Okay, what's that one alternative path that you need to remove in order to make it and the one main goal a necessity? Once you answer that question, you will actually start to achieve the success that you're after. This is the start of the series of The Enemy is Always Internal. If you like this type of content, if you want to become the person that's starting to elevate their awareness in order to achieve X goal, in order to achieve it, there is a lot more juice, there is a lot more information that I've gathered from many mentors running many businesses that can come your way, okay? So, like, subscribe, do whatever the fuck you have to do to continue to see these videos, to continue to elevate your awareness. But this is why wanting it isn't enough. And what I've explained in this video is what actually is enough in order for you to achieve your goals.